What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Dynamic Leaders page. I am Norman Hardman. Come on in. I am so excited to have you with me. We have such an interesting topic today. We're talking about the fear of success. And it's so amazing when talking about this topic because we're so used to talking about the fear of failure. And we hear people talk about the fear of success, but a lot of us truly don't know what that means and understand what that means. So we're going to talk about that some today, okay? To be honest with you, for years and years, I truly didn't have an understanding myself until I had my own experience. So let's dive right on into it. The fear of success. What is the fear of success? The fear of success is actually the fear that you'll become successful, but after becoming successful, that you will eventually fail. And that is a powerful statement because there's a lot of things on the background when you make that statement that are not really being said that I want to unpack as we talk about the fear of success. But I want to share with you my own story in the fear of success. So typically within my own life, my fears have been of failure, that I wouldn't be good enough to do this, good enough to have this opportunity. My background is have a strong background in music, so heavy competition, strong background in sports, heavy competition. So I'm used to competing, and a lot of times I've had to give myself this jolt to go and perform and compete. And a lot of times I ended up doing well, competing well, but I really came face to face this year with the fear of success for the first time. As I mentioned, I struggled to find that definition of success. A lot of you know that I recently wrote a book, and the book is entitled The Christian Man in Pornography. So it is a book about my personal experience with the topic of sex and pornography and putting that into the open space. And so I had the opportunity to start marketing this book, to start pushing myself, to start really pushing this message. And I really felt strongly that God was pushing me to market this in a space that I have never thought about marketing this before. And when I started to market that, I got a phone call. And actually, I don't talk about myself a lot, but I got a phone call that my book was eligible for the New York Times. And I had to really sit back because I had to evaluate whether or not I felt ready enough to do this, that I felt good enough, that I felt qualified to do this. Yes, I'm a speaker. Yes, I am a person, as I mentioned, I'm used to competing. I'm used to going after things, but at a certain level. And so I had to truly evaluate myself. As a matter of fact, when I got the phone call, I asked, will you give me a moment? And I put the phone on mute for just a few moments. It seemed like a few minutes. I called my wife in to talk to her about what's going on. And I told them that, hey, thank you. I feel like this is a great opportunity. Can I give you a call right back? And I just had to take 10 minutes just to really sit and understand what this meant and have truly evaluate whether or not I was ready. And some of the thoughts that I had was, would I be qualified enough to talk to a larger audience? Did I feel good enough? Did I have enough content to talk to people, not just 1,000 people, but could I talk to 100,000 people? Could I talk to 1 million viewers? And if I had to be honest, just the idea of that was intimidating at first, because it's not anything that was presented to me when I was writing the book. Initially, I was writing it for myself, and God wanted me to share this message with other people. And so it was intimidating to know that my book had the opportunity, or the message of this book had the opportunity to go global. And so I had to start thinking from this perspective. And it helped me really understand and define something that was foreign to me, and that was the fear of success. And the fear of success, as I mentioned, is that you will become successful but would eventually fail. And that fear shows up in many ways. For some people, it could be the fear of losing your privacy. Hey, this is the very first time that I'm stepping out. The recognition, the fame that comes along with it. How will my family respond to it? And how would we be able to ever go back to life as usual? There's that fear. So basically, I would call that the fear of managing my personal life after something big happens, right? That's that fear of success that we have. But truly, most of us, when it comes to the fear of success, that fear that we have, is we will be able to maintain what we have, not just be becoming a one-hit wonder, as we would say, or what I truly have enough content to speak to a large audience and to be able to captivate that audience or serve in whatever capacity that you feel you've been called to serve. So now I want to unpack why that fear shows up and what that truly means. So when we're talking about that fear of success, there's some good qualities in that, because it means that you recognize your strengths. You recognize the fact that there's some content that you have, there are some skills and abilities that you have that set you apart at a certain level, that you are ready and able to talk to a larger audience, or that you're ready to talk to a different audience. And we know that the Bible talked about your gift making room for you, that you can bring a gift before a king. A lot of times when we think about that, we think about a physical gift that you can give, but also it can be a gift of service or a gift that you have within you. When you think about David in the Bible, what brought him before King Saul was the fact that he was a very skilled musician. And when he played his harp, it played away the demonic forces that was resting on the inside of the king. And so that gift brought him before the king. And so the gifts and the skills, abilities that you have on the inside of you has the ability to bring you before people, men and women of influence. So you recognize that you have that strength on the inside of you. But the fear of it is that you also recognize what? Your weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. When you think about, I talked to people about my book, and I said, if anything, when it came to the issue of sex and pornography, that was my one Achilles heel. And they asked, well, what about other things? What about other areas of your life that you struggled with and that you had a lot of difficulty? And I tend to think that all of us have an area of weakness, at least one area. Some of us have multiple areas of weakness. And when it comes to weakness, it's important to know what your weakness is. It's important to understand that, yes, you do have a weakness, or that you do have some weaknesses. You don't want to shy away with from knowing what those weaknesses are. And when it comes to that fear of success, truly what you're fearing is that your weaknesses will overcome or overpower the strengths that you have. That your strength will only be able to take you so far. Your strength will only be able to take you to a certain level before your weaknesses show up and sabotage this new level that you have attained. And we see this happen to so many people. We see this happen to stars every day. We see them blow up, and we see them go to another level, taking their gift to another audience. And into it, maybe a few years into it, we see something crazy, something that seems totally absurd happen within their life. We call it misconduct. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this person acting out that way? And it's truly because there was some weakness on the inside of them, and they feared that coming to the forefront so much that it actually materialized. Or they failed to address those areas of weaknesses. They failed to manage those areas of weakness, and it showed up in a way that was detrimental to their character. And so we want to avoid that when we're talking about the fear of success. So how do we deal with this fear of success? Okay, first of all, we have to name what the problem is. And the problem is that you're overly concerned with the emotion of your weaknesses overcoming your strengths. You have too much focus on it. You've placed too much focus on it. You've given it too much attention. Yes, we know that it's there. Yes, we know that risks are there. From the time that you wake up in the morning, you step out of the bed, you start walking around using electronics, getting into your car, driving, you're taking risks at that very moment. So it's not the fact of totally avoiding the risk of something negative happening. Yes, we know that negative things can happen, but we just want to understand those risks. And when you're fearing, legitimately having a fear, or authentically having a fear of success, you're overly concerned with your weaknesses overpowering your strengths. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So it's very important that you don't give fear that attention that it does not deserve. And there's a second thing that I want us to understand beyond that. I want us to understand that God has either given us process or he's given us grace. It could be and or. So God can give us grace and process, or process and grace, or God can give us process or grace. So let me tell you what I mean by that. And let's start with process. So when I received that call about being able to go to the have my book shared in the New York Times, it shook me for a moment, and I had to get myself back together. Of course, I said yes, I would like to go through with it. It will show up later, and I'll share it with you guys, of course. But since then, the process of it, it's not like something happened immediately. There was an announcement of something happening, and then there's a process that immediately ensued or immediately began. And so that process of things beginning of, hey, now my book is actually out there. I'm a published author. Now I have to begin sharing the message with other people, sharing it on social media, being invited to speak in front of different groups. Those are the things that were a part of my process, and the things that are still a part of my process, to the point that I'm still receiving phone calls to this day. And so the conversations that I've had have allowed me to peel back the layers of things that I didn't even know was present in conversation. And see, that's God's way of saying, yes, there's an announcement that I do want you to share this message on a larger platform, but I'm not going to allow you to share that on a larger platform before I have you go through the process. King David went through the same thing. He was anointed with oil, and he was told at a very young age, around 15 years old, that he would be the king of what? All Israel. But he went through a 15-year-long process to getting there. And so you have to receive the announcements, or you have to receive the news or the opportunities that you could be going to a level with the grace for process. The second thing is grace. So if it seems like the process is uneven, let's say you're trekking along with the process, and boom, something takes off. And typically that's what happens. I study people who have done well, people who are experts, people who are in the limelight, and they typically talk about that one moment where prior to, they were preparing for it, they were tooling themselves, they were practicing and doing all these things, and then they had this one role, this one opportunity, this one speaking engagement that propelled them into their career. So opportunities for growth are really uneven. And so when you meet that moment and boom, it propels you, you have to realize that God's grace is on you. What is God's grace? God's grace is his unmerited favor. That means that there's no limit to his ability that is on you, okay, for doors and opportunities to open. When God is giving you an assignment, that he's also giving you the ability, the wherewithal, the tools, and the skills to make it happen. So you have to realize that even if you are in a place where it appears that you're launching or opportunities are coming before you're ready, and you feel that God is pushing you out the door to do it, then hey, accept the grace that God is giving you to do it. You don't have to be fearful of success. You don't have to be fearful of failure. But when God gives you an opportunity or brings an opportunity into your life, you go after it. Hey, I hope this message has been impactful. I want you to go ahead and do a few things. I want you to follow me at the Dynamic Leaders page on Facebook, primarily. If you're watching this video, go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I will have more content that's coming out because I want you guys to be successful leaders going into 2020 and beyond, okay? So go out, be great, and guys, I will talk to you next time. Take care.